Thank you. Okay, wait, we're way ahead now. Okay. All right, first, a little bit about me. I also, like Mark, came from the news side. Before actually started my career at the Washington Post as a reporter a very long time ago, and then I returned last fall to launch Washington Post Creator on the business side. So we launched this new business unit. It's separate from the newsroom. We're outside of the newsroom. We're outside of the opinion section. We're really within the business section, and our whole goal is to create a whole new business around partnerships, content partnerships with independent creators. It's really exciting. I'll share a little bit more about what we do and why we're doing this. So agenda for just the next 30 minutes is, I think it's important, obviously, with every business to identify the problem we're trying to solve, the opportunity it presents with creators. The whole creator economy seems very overwhelming, exciting, all these things, buzzy, and also it's hard for us, those of us in the legacy news organizations, to think about what is our place in it, right? Are we competitors? Are we partners? How do we figure this out? And the good news is that the creator economy still is in many ways in its infancy, so there's a lot of room for us to grow together. I'm going to talk about the Washington Post creator approach and how I see the opportunity that we're running at and how we've been able to find a business in just less than a year, and then leave you hopefully with some ideas of how you can think about how you might want to approach your own creator strategy if you aren't already. And it would be helpful for me to understand how many of you have already been pursuing a creator strategy in the room? Yes? Okay, good. Thinking about it. Okay, great. There's many, many ways in. And then I hope we will have time for your questions. Okay, great. So I always think it's good to start with definitions because when we talk about creators, there's a lot of words that get thrown around. Creators, influencers, news influencers. And so this is my personal definition. This is a subject for the ongoing debate, but I see a difference between influencers and creators. And so I think of influencers as people who are creating content with the sole purpose of trying to sell you something or convince you of something, their POV. Creators I see as, maybe this difference is too subtle, but I think is slightly different, which is they're creating content around their area of expertise, and that's their entire intention around doing so. And that's where I think the Venn diagram between creators and journalists really overlap. And that's why you see a lot of journalist creators, a lot of our colleagues have decided to go independent, and they've become creator journalists. So for us, Washington Post Creator, we are solely working with creators. And in particular, creators who have built their audience around their subject matter expertise. So that's helpful. So the problem we're trying to solve here is something that we're very familiar with in two levels. One, we're all news consumers, and we all are familiar with the onslaught of information we're barraged with. Like, we know that there's so much information coming at us that it's hard to know what to believe and where to go. It's coming at us on social media, it's coming at us from traditional media. We're all getting hit up by Substacks to subscribe to podcasts, also cable television that's 24 hours. And so the world is overwhelmed, we're overwhelmed, and at the same time, we have to help our consumers as news publishers understand fact from fiction, right? It's hard for us to help even our own friends and family navigate this world, right? And when it becomes for us to fight, listen to us, we're telling the truth, then we understand the battle for consumers to even do this on their own, right? And so that's, I think, the problem for us to understand when we're thinking about how much more crowded that becomes every day when everyone can be a creator and launch their own podcast, launch their own Substack, launch their own social media channel. So I'm gonna break this down into the big problem actually has many smaller problems. So I know this is maybe hard to read, but the first problem is a platform problem. And this chart shows, this is from the Reuters Institute for Journalism, and I apologize, this is American data, but I'm looking at it from the American problem we have to solve at the Washington Post. But the Reuters Institute for Journalism does have a lot of country-by-country data breakdown, so you can look up your own country, but I assure you the trend is the same, probably for your country. So this shows that 54% of Americans now, which is the top news source, now get their news from social and video networks. So you see the long-term trend over the course of this chart, but social and video is that kind of dark line you see on the top right. And then I think that, let's see, digital online news sites is the light blue line, the orange line is television, print is the pink line. Sorry for those of us who started in print. And if you see on the very, very right, there's a little tiny dot, and that's AI. So this is probably not surprising, but I think what it shows is we've reached an inflection point, and I don't think that these lines are going to change. I think this is a crossing that is here to stay. The second problem is the attention problem. And I think really this is a generational problem that we kind of know, but I think is well documented. And I thought I'd show just a few charts that show this quite well. This is the same source, the Reuters Institute for Journalism, showing the generational shift that when asked the proportion of people who say social media news, sorry, I have to put my glasses on for this one. Proportion of social media news users that say they pay most attention on each platform, 51% of adults 18 to 24 say they pay most attention to creators for news. And, you know, about half, 46% of adults 25 to 34% say the same. So do we think that this is going to change suddenly when these people become, you know, in their 30s or 40s or 50s? No, probably not, right? So these habits are happening now, and I think we need to pay attention to where they're getting their information. And just to underscore this a little bit in more detail, different source of information, that data was from last year. This data came out in April of this year from the AP, and the Evolving News Landscape report shows in a little more detail. I'm sorry this is very hard to read, but I'll try to break it down for you. It shows on a variety of different specific topics. We tend to think, oh, creators are just like, you know, posting about entertainment news, or they're posting about celebrities, or they're posting about sports. Well, this actually does have a lot of that information about ask people where they get what kinds of information, but it also talks about national news. And so this shows that a majority of teens and half of adults 18 to 34 say they get news often or sometimes on national issues, entertainment, culture, sports, and celebrities from, quote, influencers or independent creators. So again, I talked before about the definitions of these terms. Here they're kind of used interchangeably. But anyway, just a little bit more detail on where people are getting their information by age group demographic. And here, the blue line is often sometimes, the green line is rarely or never. So again, just another way that this generational change is showing up in other surveys. So we have the platform problem, the attention problem, and then we have the trust problem. So just because you're getting information from different sources doesn't mean that you necessarily trust it. But actually, here it goes. The generational shift shows that those young adults who are getting that information from social media creators or influencers do trust it just as much as they get the information from news, traditional media news. So that is eye-opening, I don't know, disturbing, challenging, a challenge for us all in the room, right? So the blue line here, this is another, I don't know if I would do the chart this way personally, someone who loves to do charts, but anyway, it shows that younger adults trust information from social media sites about as much as from national news organizations. And so the blue line here is those adults age 18 to 29. The blue line is those ages 35 to 49. lighter blue, 50 to 64. The lightest is 65 plus. And so the top one is social media sites. Second is national news organizations. Great news, everybody trusts local news organizations. So we're all in good shape if you're in local news. But I think therein lies the challenge here, just to underscore that these are habits that are getting baked in now that I don't think we should expect will change suddenly when these people get older. And by these people, some of them are in this room, right? So rather than getting depressed about this data, I actually think the good news is that there's opportunity here. And why is because we all care about quality information, no matter where that comes from. And so if we can harness the audience of creators and build an infrastructure to separate high quality information from not so great information, then I think that suddenly this dynamic could change. And so that's how I started thinking about this, as someone who really believes and wants to fight for this. And as a journalist who spent my whole career in being a reporter, an editor, leading a news organization, I really thought about this challenge of, I see a lot of my journalist friends getting into creating content. I see a lot of people, consumers who want to follow individual journalists because they care about quality information themselves. So there is a problem that we can solve. How can we possibly do this? And then from a business perspective, there's a lot of infrastructure we could build. You know, news organizations have a lot of assets that we could tap into. We have relationships with advertisers. We have the ability to create platforms. We have the ability to connect consumers, news readers, as well as convene, different people together to consume information. So the question is, how do we do that? So here's what we thought about. I thought about how could we use our partnerships with creators, or build partnerships with creators in a way that could help the Washington Post, or at least our brand, produce new content, reach new audience, and new revenue. Sound impossible, maybe? And I took a little bit of learning to understand how the creator economy currently works. Right now, there's a lot of different ways that creators currently make money. If you ask any particular creator, what you will hear is often they'll talk about this, revenue, pie chart, where it's like a combination. It's not one particular thing. Some of them get like a combination of subscriptions, particularly if they're a Substack writer or a newsletter writer, or a brand deal. Sponsor will come and say, like, I love what you're doing. I want to pay you X amount of money to, sponsor your content. Or if they're like on putting their content on YouTube, for example, they may be able to tap into earn money through like Google AdSense or another network on YouTube that will pay them money by inserting ads onto their content, or affiliate sales. So they could be able to add links into their content that link out to a retailer, for example. So every time a user clicks on that link, they earn some money. But the bottom line is the yellow text I have highlighted here, which is the number I hope that gets everyone's attention. Creator ad sales are expected to be $44 billion this year. And to me, there's no reason why we should not have a piece of that money, which is only growing every single year. So our bet at Washington Post Creator is that creators are here to stay. Consumer habits and trust is real, those challenges. The creator economy is only going to grow, but it needs infrastructure, and advertisers want to be there. They're looking for a trusted partner to deliver that message, and we can be that partner. What we did at the Post is two things. Number one, we launched a newsletter called Verified. I'll give you a QR code at the end so you can sign up for free. We wanted to establish our credibility in this space and get people to create also a face. I hired Dylan Wells. She is Actually, I kind of stole her from the newsroom. She was covering political creators on the campaign trail and did a great job. It was really covering like how political creators were disrupting campaigns and disrupting our politics in the United States. You read all about that, I'm sure, with the Trump campaign. And basically, I hired her because she wanted to cover like creators more broadly. And so she's been covering now for me how creators are disrupting entertainment, how they're disrupting retail, how they're disrupting the sports business, universities, et cetera, and it's been fascinating. I'm learning a ton from her, and I think if you're interested in learning about the creator economy, she's a great person to follow and to start. Number 2, we launched a creator video series. So we started by finding and identifying creators who have that subject matter expertise, have already built a very big audience, and are differentiating their content, have differentiated content from the newsroom. And what we did is said, okay, we'll do a video series with you if you're interested. We will fact check your content. We'll produce a series of videos together, about 6 to 10 videos together. You'll publish this content on your social channels, collaborate with us. That way, your audience and our audience both see these videos. I will fact check them, or our team will fact check them. We'll get a legal review, and 90% of that production happens with you. Then we will go out on the money side. Oh, I'm gonna show you what it looks like in a second. On the money side, I'll get to the slide later, we will go out and find sponsorship for that. We will try to find sponsorship for that video series. If we sell a sponsorship, we will share in that revenue. So it's a win-win. The win is this creator gets paid no matter what for the video series, gets extra payment and revenue share if it gets sponsored, and we grow audience and revenue together. So there's something in it for them, there's something in it for us. We're getting our brand and content in front of an entirely new audience, and we're also able to grow revenue in a new way. So rather than me talking about it, I'm gonna show you a quick little snippet of what
kind of car do you drive?
2021 Jeep
intro.
Wrangler.
CLK 550 convertible.
What is your current car payment on that?
Probably over $1,500.
$1,000.
My truck's $850, and I think her truck's actually like $700.
$777.
0. It's paid off.
Upfront, 100% cash.
Yes.
So I've owned like 50 cars in my lifetime. I've owned a lot of cars.
50?
50.
I actually got laid off at the end of the year.
Lost your job and then bought a new car.
Today we're getting nosy and asking Americans how much their car payment is, because apparently 1 in 5 new car payments are over $1,000 according to S&P Global. So we're gonna find out if that's actually true, what kinds of cars Americans are now driving, and the smart ways you can purchase a car this year. And this video is all part of a new series called Let's Talk Numbers, where I go out onto the street as a WP creator and talk to everyday Americans about important money topics. So let's go interrupt people's day for the sake of financial education.
Thank you. Okay, that's JC Rodriguez. So he's our first creator. He's a personal finance coach. Sorry, I didn't set that up a little bit more. But he did a whole series with us. He's based in Nashville, Tennessee. So what I like about him is he's this very Gen Z personal finance coach. He's built a whole audience around talking and asking everyday Americans about the very personal financial decisions that they make. And so his first video, this one reached over 1 million people, this one video, and he asked, I learned something. I had no idea Americans were paying like $1,000 a month for their car payments. That's insane. By the way, I did the conversion. That's like 746 pounds a month, okay, according to today's currency. That's crazy, but Americans love their cars, so I guess that's what they're paying. So he is doing this in a way that, frankly, no Washington Post reporter would cover this topic in this way. He did also use a Washington Post article to like mention and refer to some of the data in it for this YouTube story. And it's highly engaging. It's, you know, he talks and identifies himself as a creator. You saw his little WP microphone. And so it was really fun, and it was a great way for us to showcase what we're doing. It's all in his style. I did not tell him what to do. It's all his idea. We agreed on the topics. I fact-checked a lot of his work. Our lawyers had a field day with all of the ways that, you know, what's going on in the background to make sure that it was legally cleared, but it gives you an idea of the kind of content that we're creating. I'll show you another one on this. Let me set this up a little bit. This just talks about a little bit of the payment and how we did it, which I already talked about. But this next creator I'll show you is very different topic. We decided to do health and wellness as a category. This creator is Dr. Jake, and he is a board-certified psychiatrist, and he, for May in the US is Mental Health Month, and so we decided to do a series about how to protect your brain in a digital world. We all know that we struggle with this, and so this is Dr. Jake's one video from his series.
You've heard about sleep hygiene, but nobody is talking about wake hygiene. Welcome to How to Protect Your Brain in a Digital World. I'm Dr. Jake Goodman, a board-certified psychiatrist, and this series is in collaboration with Washington Post creator. The first 30 minutes when you wake up in the morning can set your nervous system for the rest of the day. When you wake up, your brain is shifting from sleep into alertness. What you do in this window matters so much more than people realize. If you start your day by immediately scrolling or checking email, your brain just jumps straight into stress mode. Here are a few ways to ensure a healthy wake hygiene. Number 1, use a gentle alarm or a sunrise light to wake up. Number 2, skip the snooze button. Number 3, and this is the most difficult, try to avoid your phone for the first 20 minutes after waking up. During that time, try focusing on your breath, meditation, stretching, or just some sort of gentle movement before you look at your phone. Try this tomorrow morning. Most people notice an improvement in mood, focus, and lower stress within a few days. Your nervous system will thank you.
All right. Okay. Let's all try that for 20 minutes tomorrow. I think that's totally impossible. Anyway. I hope this gives you an idea of the kind of content we're creating with creators. And the beauty of this is that, really they do most of the work. They're really doing 90% of the production. Like I said, it's in their voice, it's to their audience. Dr. Jake has already, built an audience of 2 million followers across YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And so what's wonderful is we're just accessing that and unlocking that. And so what we're doing is we're launching one video series show a month with a new creator and a different topic each month. And all told, as we go, as we build this cohort of creator, if you add up the audience of all these creators that we're working with, we'll be able to build the audience that's equivalent to, with their audience, the equivalent to the Washington Post social audience that took the Washington Post 20 years plus to build in less than a year. That's the power of what we're able to do with Washington Post creator. So, now we're stuck again. All right, can you guys help me again? Sorry. Okay, what this means for you, we're doing this, and I think you can too. I want you to think about, as you're thinking about your own creator strategy, is what part of the creator economy makes sense for your company to own. So think about how the creator economy works, do a little research, think about maybe this kind of approach that we're doing makes sense for you, maybe something else. I know a lot of news organizations are already experimenting step 1 in terms of having your own journalists create creator content. That's great. I think the thing is, how do you monetize that? For us, we ran into some ethics issues in terms of how creators monetize their video. And so we decided creators can do this better. So that's why we decided to exit and put this outside of the newsroom. Number 2, knowing about the attention and the trust issues, how do you ensure that you're contributing to solving the problem of helping your audience get trusted information? I think it's important to think about the problem you're trying to solve here and how you're gonna do that with your brand as you step into the creator economy. And then, the other thing I didn't talk enough about is the advertisers. There are a lot of, the problem we're trying to solve for advertisers is that a lot of them want to get into this space. They know all of the data that I showed you. They know where the audience is going. Some of them are more sophisticated than others in terms of already reaching out and working with creators. But there's a whole lot of them too that also want to get in the space and they need help getting there. But they're like, for a lot of advertisers, it's a lot of work working with creators by themselves. They have to find out which creator to work with. They have to then go negotiate with that creator. If that creator's really big, they have to go find like what talent agency is representing them and then negotiate a fee. It's like expensive. It's a lot of like back and forth. It's a big contract. So like what we're trying to do is reduce that friction and say like, we have already built this cohort of trusted, vetted creators, and we will do all that work for you. We actually just come and deal with us. We've already vetted these creators. We are doing all the fact checking. You don't have to worry about brand safety. Just work with us and it's seamless. So if you can reduce that friction or solve that problem for the advertiser, and then you can guarantee like your audience will get this message and your message will get in front of this audience that is of this size, that is wonderful for them to hear, because they also know that they need to get in front of a younger audience that is, constantly on their phone, and this is where they want to reach them. So you want to think about how you're able to solve that for them. And I think that this is true whether it's a local or a national advertiser. Actually, maybe even more true for a local advertiser, frankly. So there's so many entry points into this. If I were local, I would think about arts and entertainment, sports first, probably. That's where I think a lot of creators are already working directly with some of these companies, but I don't think that the opportunity is gone yet. But I do think the window is closing quickly. So those are just quick thoughts. And then also you think about like, if you don't get into this space, who will? Because people will. Other companies will. There already are ad networks building in different spaces, in different industries, to represent creators. I mean, it's a fascinating time of who is getting into each other's business right now, where talent agencies are getting into the creator space, advertising companies are branching out, media companies. Everyone is seeing where the dollars are, that $44 billion number I just showed you, and they are seeing the opportunity. And then the last thing I want to leave you with is, whatever you do or decide to do, make sure that it works for the creators. They should be your partners. They are each their own small business, and they are looking to grow, and think about what do they need. Make sure that you're serving them and that you make it a win for them. I think that I've heard from a lot of creators who've had different relationships or partnerships with media companies, and they felt like it was a one-way street. They felt like they were used by them, or they were just used for their promotional purposes. And you really have to think about how can you be treating them like they're a business partner as well. They're a small business partner, but they're a partner nonetheless. And so any way that you're approaching this as you think about it, think about how you can really respect them as creators and what value they're bringing. They're bringing you a huge audience is what they're doing. And you want to be also a repeat partnership, hopefully, if it works. So those are things I will leave you with. We have a lot of time, actually, for questions, but I kind of was anticipating that. I've thrown a lot at you this morning. So I will leave it there. And this is a QR code for our verified newsletter. Also, our website has all of our creator content on there if you wanted to watch more of Dr. Jake or JC. And then we also just launched last week a new travel creator, Maddie on the Go, so you can watch her. So I'm happy to take any creator questions.
Hi, I had a question about two questions. How do you vet the possible content creators you want to use? And is there any way that some of these ideas you're using for content creators could be used for a journalist who maybe is doing more video? I'm from the Boston Globe, and one of our reporters went viral, Emily Sweeney, and she's been featured all over the place. Mm-hmm. And I've been looking at a lot of these great ideas you have in here. And I know you said it's a monetization issue, but could some of these ideas be used for a reporter who maybe, like in Emily's case, has gone viral?
Mm-hmm. So to vet creators, we there's a lot of really actually cool tools out there that you can use that actually use AI to scan content that anybody online on social media has ever published and evaluate it and score it for content flags. It's actually very sophisticated and very impressive. So there's technology out there that can you just put in someone's social media handle and it can evaluate it for political content, sexual content, violence, you name it. It isn't obviously 100% accurate, but it will flag content that then you can go deeper and evaluate. And so we use that to look at a short list of candidates that we've identified. We also use a third-party company that does a lot of creator sourcing for us. And so that's a first step, and then we will look at a short list that we feel is, aligns with our brand. So that's for that question. And then in terms of journalists, I think that's a good question. I think this could be a whole separate talk. I think it's a larger discussion probably around journalism and ethics and what the line is, because right now, at least for social video, the way that social video is monetized now, it is through brand messaging. And so if you're comfortable with your personality doing a message on behalf of a brand and what kind of message, that is probably determining the answer. So I think at least in the US, right, there's some media publications that are okay with, say, a journalist reading a host-read ad and saying, this podcast is brought to you by X brand, right? There's that, and then there's, what I'm having some of my creators do who are not journalists is you say hey, I think that you should, I really love this product and I use it, and that's a whole episode. Yeah. Oh, the publication? I mean, why not? Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Did you hear me? Oh, ears. Hi. It's me again. No, I would have a lot of questions, but I'll ask one.
I'll be here all day.
Okay, well, wonderful. Do you reuse these videos that are created by your team of creators on the Washington Post platform?
Yes.
And on your social media accounts too? Yes. And do you brand them specifically?
Yeah, so good question. I forgot to tell you that. So we also take the videos and we publish them not only on the videos are published on the creators' social media accounts. They collaborate with our social media accounts. They appear on both. And then we also publish them on thewashingtonpost.com, and they appear on our app. And they are labeled just like you saw as Washington Post creator. So it's distinctive from a news video or an opinion video. So it's just like another Washington Post video product.
And was it well received by the editorial team?
Was it received? I think that they just want to make sure it was properly labeled and it wasn't confused for news. And it performed really well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yep.
Hi. Yes, it's working. I know at the Post and the Boston Globe, American newspapers generally have exceptionally high ethical standards. And how do you deal with this with the creators? Because obviously you're probably not going to expect them to be quite at the level that the newsroom is. It's kind of question one. Question two is, you talked about labeling it as WP creator. Do you think that over time your viewers will just see them as blending into one, that becomes kind of the Washington Post?
Yeah, so with ethics, we put a lot of thought into that. We developed our own ethics policy, and so we ask our creators about disclosing, any prior brand relationships they have, any investments that they have, any other businesses that might pose a conflict of interest over the past 3 years. brand relationships, I mean. And so we take that into account as we're evaluating whether to work with them. And then also around disclosure, obviously there's FTC rules. And then in addition to that, I think we're just really conservative when it comes to disclosure. So for example, if a creator mentions a brand and they've actually worked with them in the past year or two, we also disclose that, even if it's not sponsored by that brand. So I think we're just trying to be really err on the side of over disclosure because we know that that's really a problem in the creator space. And then your other question around, we're really new at this, so we're really 3 months in. We launched this in March, and I think we're open to feedback, but I really think that the audience, and I think this is, again, this is a whole other discussion, but I think the audience, and at least the data I've seen shows, the audience cares about transparency. They're not gonna not believe a creator because they've had a brand partnership. They care about not disclosing that. And I've heard from a lot of people who are like, oh, well, I don't trust X brand because it's owned by X person as much as I don't, so trust it varies, right, from the consumer and their own POV. It's not so much about the journalism rules necessarily that we have for ourselves. That's my perspective. And then, I don't know, is Mike over there?
Hi, 2 questions from me. The rev share model, could you talk us a bit through how that works in terms of the negotiation? And how many creators do you think you will scale to over time?
Sorry, I didn't hear the beginning part.
The rev share model.
Oh, rev share.
How much is in favor of Washington Post? How much is in favor of the creator? What does that split look like? And then, secondly, how many creators do you think you'll end up
how
with?
many what?
How many creators will you scale to?
Yeah. Well, right now what we've launched is largely both a proof of concept. So we're launching, 1 creator a month for the next 6 months, but we're also actively in a lot of sales. But we've made 2 sales so far for 2 video series, which have been great. So I'm really happy with the results. And to me, it's really about listening to the market, understanding what the market's interested in. We've actually learned a lot about the brands are interested in the video series, but they're also, at least our first sale was around a video series and an event. So we think there's a lot of interest in growth in that space too. And then in terms of revenue share, I'm not gonna get into the details, but it makes it worthwhile for the creator because we basically pay them as a freelancer for the content no matter what. And then so the advertising part of it is just like a bonus.
Yeah. We were talking yesterday at the ARC Council about funding journalism and the economics of journalism. Do you think this is going to impact the way columnists and journalists are paid in the future? Because it's moving to a performance culture.
I do think that more and more people are paying to support individual journalists, for sure. They already are. And they're paying them for their expertise because they care about that specific topic, whether that's a journalist who's a foreign correspondent or a political reporter or a reporter who has a special area of expertise in science or what have you. It allows individual people to follow, and follow the people who are experts. In a way, it's kind of like getting around the middleman. In a way, I feel like creators are also going directly to the source, right? It's like connecting the audience with the journalist sources. So I also think that's another way of thinking about these relationships that we're forming is we care about the quality of those sources, just like we care about the quality of information through the journalists. So to me, it's a different way of forming that relationship. I just feel like it's important for us to own that relationship. Yes. Okay. Thank you. I'm around all day. Thank you so much.